So let's take a look at an example of the basic architecture that I'm proposing that you use for creating your automation framework and that we're going to use in this module. If you look at this diagram here, it's fairly simple, but there's some very key things that are going on here. And the biggest thing that's happening is that your test scripts are depending on an automation framework. They're not depending on Selenium. So the tests that we've written so far have depended directly on Selenium. What I mean by that is the actual code that we executed was actually importing the Selenium namespaces and using objects in there and directly interfacing with Selenium. But what we're going to do with our automation framework is we're going to have our test scripts only depend on that application framework or automation framework that we're going to create. And then that application framework or automation framework is going to depend on Selenium. So it's going to interface with Selenium. Technically, we could swap out a different type of automation tool besides Selenium and just modify the connecting pieces to our automation framework, and our test scripts should still be able to run. Now, Selenium is going to be connected to the browser API. We're also not going to directly interface with the browser API because you could definitely do that within code. Selenium does it, but we're going to make sure that we never do that. So at the highest level is our test script, and that is going to be the key thing that we're going to focus on. The goal of our automation framework or application framework is to support our test scripts. And you can also think about what concepts are related to these different layers here. So test scripts are going to be focusing on things like pages in your application, workflows, things that are very domain specific to your application. It's actually going to share some domain knowledge with your real web application. At the application framework layer, we're going to be focusing on smaller pieces here, like the document object model, the things that exist in the browser. This is where we're going to be getting elements from pages, and we're going to be focusing on how to manipulate pages and how to best navigate through the application. Then at the Selenium layer, Selenium is really low level. It's focusing on the actual HTML, the elements, it's parsing the page, it's using the browser API. So it's at the very lowest level.